always thought I had everything a woman could ask for. A stable home, a loyal husband, and a life that was simple but safe. My name doesn't matter here, because this story could belong to anyone who once mistook comfort for happiness. My husband, Adnan, was everything society praises. A responsible provider, soft-spoken and always respectful. We had been married for 6 years. We weren't fiery lovers, but we were a team. Or at least I believed we were. Our days revolved around routine. Morning tea, office hours, dinners often eaten in silence, and weekend visits to his family. There was no drama, no chaos, just a calm rhythm that lulled me into thinking we were okay. But somewhere deep within me, a quiet ache had started to grow. It wasn't something I could name. It was like missing a piece of music in a well-played song. Then came Imran. He was Adnan's best friend since college. Confident, humorous, and magnetic in a way that made rooms pause when he entered. He often dropped by unannounced, sometimes just to have tea or catch a cricket match with Adnan. At first, I saw him the way my husband did. A brother, a friend, a trusted soul. But Imran had a way of noticing things. Things my husband didn't. Like when I changed the curtains or wore a new dress. "This color suits you," he once said, with a half-smile that lingered longer than it should have. I brushed it off. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Or maybe I wasn't. Adnan never suspected anything because there was nothing yet to suspect. Imran was just being friendly. That's what I told myself. But the truth, I had started looking forward to his visits more than I should have. His attention was addictive, a contrast to Adnan's distant warmth. Adnan loved me in a quiet, responsible way. Imran made me feel something visible, present, wanted. One evening, while Adnan worked late at the office, Imran dropped by with takeaway dinner. "Didn't want you to eat alone," he said casually, but there was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. I laughed nervously, thanked him, and invited him in. We ate together, made small talk. But under it all, something unspoken flickered. Something dangerous. As he left, he looked back and said softly, "Adnan's lucky, you know. Not many men get a wife like you." I didn't respond. Couldn't. My heart thudded in my chest for reasons I didn't want to admit. That night, as I lay next to my husband, listening to the gentle rhythm of his breathing, a storm began to brew inside me. A storm I wasn't prepared for, and the days that followed, I tried to shake off the feeling, the thrill, the guilt, the confusion, but it clung to me like perfume you didn't intend to wear. Imran's presence lingered in my thoughts, uninvited yet persistent. Every time the doorbell rang, a part of me hoped it was him. And disturbingly, I began noticing how often I thought about what he might say, how he might look at me. Adnan remained unaware. He was deep in a work project that had him returning home later than usual, often exhausted and distracted. We barely spoke beyond dinner plans and grocery lists. I told myself I shouldn't blame him. He was providing for us, wasn't he? But emotionally I felt invisible. Then came the afternoon, everything shifted. A power outage in our neighborhood had thrown the day into a restless kind of silence. I sat on the veranda, fanning myself with an old magazine, when Imran showed up. "Thought I'd check in." "I was nearby," he said, holding 2 cold drinks and that signature smile that always felt a little too personal. I hesitated, but only for a second, before letting him in. We talked about trivial things at first, but the space between our words was charged. Then mid-sentence he said, "You deserve more than this." Froze. More than being alone in a marriage that forgot how to love you. My heart pounded. "That's not fair," I whispered. "You don't know everything." "I know enough," he replied, leaning closer. "And I see you, even when he doesn't." His hand brushed mine. I didn't pull away. It wasn't planned. It wasn't right. But in that moment loneliness won. Kissed. When I came back to my senses, I felt as though I had stepped outside of myself, watching a version of me I didn't recognize. Pulled away, shaking. "This can't happen again," I said, avoiding his eyes. Imran nodded, but his silence said otherwise. That night, I acted like everything was normal. I made Adnan's favorite curry, asked about his day, and smiled when he kissed my forehead. But I couldn't meet my own eyes in the mirror. The days that followed blurred. Imran didn't stop visiting and I didn't stop him. We never spoke of what happened, but something unspoken continued to pass between us. A look, a pause, a half-smile. It was enough to keep the door slightly ajar. Inside, I was at war with myself, torn between the comfort of loyalty and the pull of forbidden attention. I wanted to believe it was just a moment, a mistake. But deep down I knew, we had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Secrets have a way of growing heavier with time. At first, they're small, almost invisible. But then they settle in your bones, twist in your stomach, and steal the sleep from your nights. That's what our secret became. A silent burden I carried through every conversation, every dinner, every moment I spent beside my unsuspecting husband. Adnan started to notice the change. I could see it in the way he looked at me, concerned, searching. He'd reach for my hand, and I'd pull away without meaning to. I'd overcompensate, cooking his favorite meals, pretending to laugh at old jokes, hoping he wouldn't see through me. But guilt has a way of clouding even the clearest intentions. Meanwhile, Imran had stopped playing coy. He began texting more often, slipping in compliments, hinting at future possibilities. "You don't have to stay stuck in a life that doesn't fulfill you," he wrote one night. Scared me. What started as a kiss had turned into something far more dangerous. An emotional tether I hadn't asked for, but couldn't seem to cut. He wanted more. He wanted me to leave Adnan. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to face what that meant. Adnan, perhaps sensing something slipping between us, took a sudden leave from work. He said he missed me. He said we needed time together, just the two of us. For a moment, hope flickered in me. Maybe it wasn't too late to fix what was broken. Maybe, just maybe, I could choose my marriage again. We planned a quiet weekend getaway to the northern hills. No phones, no distractions. Just us. I thought it would help us reconnect, remind me why I had once loved this man so deeply. But the night before we left, something happened that shattered the fragile ground I stood on. Adnan found my phone, left unlocked on the table. I had been careless. There in plain sight was a message from Imran. "I wish I could wake up next to you instead." The silence in the room when he read it was deafening. He didn't shout. He didn't ask questions. He just looked at me, eyes full of disbelief and heartbreak. Then he handed the phone back and walked out of the room. I wanted to run after him, to explain, to say something, anything. But what could I say that wouldn't sound like a lie? That night, he slept on the couch. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, unable to close my eyes. The truth was no longer a shadow in the room. It was a storm, and it had just started to break. The morning after Adnan read that message, the house felt colder than ever. He didn't speak. He didn't accuse. He simply moved around me as if I were air, something present but unimportant. That silence was louder than any argument we could have had. I had shattered something sacred, and now we were both standing in the wreckage. I tried to explain, to reach for words that might soften the blow. "It wasn't what it looked like," I whispered. He looked up, finally meeting my eyes. "Was it not?" That was all he said. Then he picked up his suitcase, the one meant for our weekend away, and walked out the door. Not for the trip, but away from us. I stood frozen, unable to follow. Days passed. Imran tried to reach out, of course. At first with concern, then with impatience. "He'll get over it," he said in a voice message. "We could be together now." But suddenly, all of Imran's charm felt hollow. Without secrecy, without shadows to hide in, there was no thrill left. Just the realization that I had been a chapter in his game, not the whole story. He disappeared as quickly as he had arrived, leaving behind only silence and a haunting sense of betrayal, not just toward Adnan but toward myself. I stayed alone. Alone in the same house, in the same routines, now stripped of warmth. I went through the motions, cleaning dishes, folding laundry, checking my phone out of habit, even though I knew Adnan wouldn't call. Weeks later, I received an envelope. No return address. Inside was a short letter, in Adnan's handwriting. You weren't just my wife. You were my belief in loyalty. In love. That belief is gone now. I don't hate you. I just can't ever look at you and feel whole again. There were no threats, no bitterness. Only sorrow. I read it 100 times. The weight of what I had done settled fully then. Not in the moments of secrecy, but in the silence that followed the truth. Sometimes betrayal isn't loud. It's quiet. It looks like an unanswered message. A suitcase left unpacked. A love that slips away not with anger, but with disappointment. If I could go back, I would have asked for what I needed from the man who gave me everything else. I would have spoken, instead of silently drifting into someone else's arms. But regret doesn't rewind time. It simply reminds you, every single day, of the price you paid for one moment of being seen.